Most people don't vanish after 80. They fade, not from illness, but from absence, of light, of voice, of reasons to move. The body doesn't always shout when it begins to leave us. Sometimes it just stops asking. No more demands, no alarms. But if we learn to listen, there are 5 quiet invitations still waiting. Not to fight time, but to return to it differently. Number 1, microsocial silence. Gerald used to know the rhythm of the day by the way people said his name. "Mornin', Gerald," from the postman. "Hello there," from the neighbor's granddaughter. Even the dog next door barked like it remembered him. It wasn't deep connection, just threads. Thin, golden, enough to stitch 1 hour to the next. Then came the delivery apps. Online banking, curtains drawn longer. The postman no longer knocked. Groceries were left at the door. Even church was streamed now. Quiet, convenient, distant. And without realizing it, Gerald went days without anyone saying his name. It didn't hurt, not like a wound, just dulled him. Like a radio slowly turned down until the silence felt normal. His granddaughter noticed it in his voice, how it paused longer between words, how it didn't rise at the end like it used to. One afternoon, she asked him to walk with her, just around the block, same time, each day. He said yes, more out of love than interest. But on the 3rd day, a man on a bench nodded. On the 5th, a crossing guard waved. By the 7th, someone said, "Gerald!" Still walking strong. It startled him. He hadn't realized he'd been seen. That night, he set out his walking shoes with care. The next morning, he shaved. He wasn't chasing youth. He was returning to presence. Now, each morning, he loops the laces twice just to feel the texture. And steps outside, not to exercise, but to be slightly, undeniably seen. Because sometimes, what keeps us alive is not the breath in our lungs, but the echo of our name in someone else's voice. 2. The stillness that followed. Fear. Elaine didn't fall, but she came close enough to start walking like someone who might. It was a slipper, a moment of uneven breath, a shift her knee didn't catch in time. No bruise, no fracture, just the echo of almost, and that was enough. After that, she moved with caution pressed into her joints, took corners tighter, held the railing when it wasn't needed. She stopped reaching high shelves, stopped turning quickly when someone called her name. Her home became smaller, not in square feet, but in permission. The body didn't ache, but it no longer volunteered, like it was waiting to be told it was still trusted. Her son noticed. He brought her a resistance band, soft yellow, like morning light. Said, "Wrap it around your hands. Just pull once a day." She smiled politely, placed it on the table, left it there for days. Then one afternoon, while waiting for the kettle, she picked it up, wrapped it loosely, pulled, her arms opened, her shoulders rolled back. The breath that came wasn't deep, but it was hers. The next morning, she did it again. And again. By the end of the week, she walked to the mailbox without her hand brushing the wall. She stirred soup with more weight in the wrist. Her balance didn't return in a rush. It returned like someone who waits to be invited. Now, she leaves the band on the counter next to the fruit bowl, not as equipment, as memory, not of what she feared, but of the quiet proof that even after fear, the body remembers how to move toward the world again. 3. Light that never found. Her Marion used to rise with the sun. She didn't chase it, just let it pour through the lace curtains and settle on the floor like a familiar dog. But after 80, the mornings changed. The curtains stayed closed, not because she feared the light, but because the day no longer asked her to meet it. One day bled into another. She forgot which one the trash went out, which one brought the crossword. She drifted awake at odd hours, sometimes 3 a.m., sometimes not at all until noon. Sleep frayed into threads. Her dreams turned shapeless, her afternoons soundless. She didn't think it was the lack of light. She thought it was just age, time, doing what it does, softening the edges. But her daughter saw it, brought her a chair, placed it by the east window, opened the curtain just an inch. The light landed across the carpet like an old invitation. Marion looked down at her feet bathed in gold, then up, and whispered, "I forgot what this room felt like." The next morning, she sat there again, tea in hand, no book, just light. By the third day, she reached for her knitting. By the seventh, she greeted the morning out loud. Her sleep didn't fix itself overnight, but something in her rhythm returned. Now, every morning, she opens the curtain with two hands, not wide, just enough. She sits, watches the tree shadow shift slowly along the wall, doesn't rush the day, just allows it. Because sometimes healing doesn't come in action, but in exposure, and the body, like the soul, still turns quietly toward the sun, if given the chance. 4. The grief that stayed. Quiet too long. Tom didn't shed a tear at the funeral, not during the service, not when they lowered the casket, not even when the house was finally quiet. He said it was strength, said the kids needed someone steady, said she wouldn't have wanted a scene. But the silence that followed was not peace. It was compression. Days folded in on themselves. He stopped finishing meals, stopped opening the windows. He still moved, watered the plants, paid the bills, but his body carried a kind of pause that never fully uncurled. The grief didn't shout. It whispered, through restless sleep, through the tightening of his jaw whenever her name came too close. Then, one afternoon, his neighbor, a widow for years, sat beside him on the porch and asked, "Have you written to her?" Tom looked confused. "Not to send," she said, "just to say what hasn't been said." That night, he pulled out an old composition book, the kind she used to keep grocery lists in. He wrote her name, then let the pen move, not with grammar, just feeling, page after page. He didn't read it back, didn't sign it, just folded it once and placed it in the drawer. The next morning, he breathed easier. He buttered toast instead of skipping breakfast. He remembered a joke and let it out half loud. It wasn't closure, it was release. Now, once a month, he writes her a new note. Sometimes 3 lines, sometimes 7 pages. He folds each one and burns it in the fire pit at dusk. Not to forget, not to say goodbye, but to keep letting go, bit by bit, in the same love that once held on so tight. 5. When the clock disappeared, Frida used to be someone time relied on. Coffee at 7, news at 7:30, a cardigan chosen before the sun hit the porch. She didn't set alarms, she didn't need to. Her body had learned the rhythm of being needed, of showing up for breakfast, for neighbors, for ordinary routines. Then came retirement. Then came his absence. Then came the kind of quiet that no clock could break. The days lost shape. The light in the hallway stayed the same, no matter the hour. She stopped brushing her hair before noon, forgot which day held which name. Time, once trusted, became fog, not heavy, just missing. Her granddaughter noticed. On a Tuesday, she brought over a plant, nothing rare, just a green thing in a ceramic cup. "Water it at 9, she said, handing her the can. "Even if that's all you do." Frida smiled politely. But the next morning, she stood in the kitchen at 8:57. 3 minutes early, she watered it slowly, watched the soil drink. Then she stretched, then poured juice, then called a friend whose number she still remembered without looking. She didn't build a schedule, she just opened a door. The plant began to grow, so did she. Not outward, inward. Now, every morning, she touches its leaves before speaking. Sometimes says, "Thank you for waiting." Because sometimes the body doesn't need a full clock. It just needs one reason the day still remembers it. And when something, anything, leans toward you with quiet expectancy, you lean back. And life begins again from there. We don't always fade from illness. Sometimes we just forget to knock on the door of our own life. Not because we're lost, but because we stopped being called. The chair stayed empty too long. The kettle didn't whistle. The coat on the wall didn't move for days. And so we assumed no one needed us to wear it anymore. It's not that we chose to leave, it's that the rhythm loosened and we didn't know how to tighten it again. One small ritual fades, watering a plant, answering the phone, setting the table with intention, and soon the day no longer recognizes our presence. The grief doesn't come loud. It doesn't arrive with tears. It arrives with delay, with the extra second it takes to stand, with the pause before naming what we used to love. We don't grieve like we used to. We grieve by forgetting, by letting things blur and not asking them to return. But somewhere in the fading, there's a pulse, a place inside still waiting for morning, a part of us still tuned to the sound of the spoon in a mug, the creak of the floor, the warmth of our own name spoken aloud. That part doesn't die. It just quiets. It curls into the corners, waiting for the moment we glance sideways and notice it's still there, still wanting to be fed, still wanting to be moved, still willing to walk with us if we let it, not to reclaim everything, just to remember what it felt like to be fully here. Maybe healing isn't about doing. Maybe it's about noticing what has already stayed. The way your breath still arrives, even if it stumbles. The way your hands still know how to tie the laces without needing to be told. You are not behind. You're not late to your life. You're simply stepping back into it from a longer hallway than before. There is no perfect time to return, only moments that say, "This is still yours." The teacup still fits your palm. The room still shifts when you move through it. The world still leaves a space where you were meant to sit. You haven't missed the window. You haven't faded all the way. You just stepped into a quieter room and stayed there a little longer than you intended. But the light is still here. So, is the sound of your own name when you whisper it into the morning. And if you're still listening, still stirring the spoon, still placing your hands on the counter, then you've already returned. There's no need to reclaim the whole day. Just begin with 1 hour, the hour that still greets you, still expects you, still feels like yours because it always was. Not all lights go out. Some just turn inward. Wait for us to notice. Wait for us to remember we were the ones who dimmed them. You don't have to bring the whole house back to brightness. Just a window, just a chair by the sun, just one plant watered on time. The body doesn't ask for drama. It asks for rhythm, for breath that doesn't race, for steps that don't explain themselves. And you don't have to change everything. You just have to notice what still turns toward you. The mug on the shelf, the name that rises slowly but still arrives. The morning that waits for you to meet it, not with achievement, but with presence. If you've faded, you can also return, not all at once, not loudly, but softly as you left. And if today you remembered one thing that brought you back into your own body, let that be enough. You've already begun. We'll be here, not to guide, not to instruct, but to walk beside the rhythm you're choosing to re-enter, breath by breath, light by light, step by step. Until then, take one slower breath and take care of your story.